Welcome to the Black Doctor Collective podcast. We as Black doctors are in a unique position. We can change our communities, healthcare, and the world. Of course, we start by changing the way we see and value ourselves. I'm your host, Dr. Shanika Horn, pediatrician and physician coach, travel extraordinaire. I am so happy to have you here and listening. So let's get into it. Welcome. Guess what episode number this is? 100. Woo, 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 woo. My mom thought I should have balloons. I ain't got them. So you're just going to deal with my regular recordings. If you're listening on the podcast, you wouldn't have seen them anyway. Welcome back to our 100th episode of the Black Doctor Collective podcast. Super excited. Shout out to those of y'all who have been riding with me from the beginning. Y'all not new to this. Y'all are true to this, and I appreciate you. And for those of you who are new here or have joined in along our journey somewhere along the way, I also appreciate you. I, of course, have a favor to ask. That is, if you have never written a review for this podcast, I am asking you from the depth of your heart in this holiday season, this should be your gift to me. Go ahead and write a review on whatever platform you listen to, Spotify, iTunes. I think we're about to be up on iHeartRadio, whatever you're listening to this on. If you have enjoyed at least one episode, if you have learned at least one thing, please go ahead and write a review because it brings more people into our audience. Those apps, you know, it's all about the algorithm. We're doing everything for the algorithm these days, dictating our movement. But this really does help it push out this show to other people who need this content. So thank you. If you have already written a review, and if you have not, Merry Christmas to me. Thanks, guys. Okay. So for the 100th episode, I thought about what I wanted to talk to you guys about. And someone recently brought up this concept of a manifesto. Like, what are the main core beliefs or principles that you live by? What are things that you say all the time? And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do like my top 10 manifesto items, things that I say all the time on this podcast, things that I live by, things that I believe in, and I'm going to share them with you. So let's just get right into it. First of all, I want to tell you that you get to change your mind about your life. This is the thing about medicine and careers and purpose in general, is this idea that you are tied to this one track, that if you find a purpose, if you find a calling, that that's the only thing you can do for your whole life, and you have to stick through it till the wheels fall off. And I'm going to tell you that's not true. Especially for us as doctors. It's not enough that we became the doctor. That was a goal. We accomplished it. But that we sometimes feel like we have to stick in a particular job, in a particular career forever and ever because that's the only thing we're good at and that's the only thing we know how to do. That's not true. You do get to change your mind. Being a doctor means that you have a whole bunch of skills you probably underrate and that are very transferable to other things. Not to mention, I know a lot of creative doctors. A lot of doctors are out here just doing the ventures. In fact, one of the upcoming things I'm going to do for 2025 is kind of do a Where Are They Now for some of our previous podcast guests. They don't know this. I'm going to reach out to them, see who wants to do it. But where are they now that they have been living the types of lives that they've described, right? Whether they were entrepreneurs or they were just doing medicine differently. Where are they now? What are they working on? What's going on? Because I need you to build evidence for your brain that you can change your mind, that you get to do different things, that you are not only a doctor. You have so many other facets to your identity other than what you do for other people. So that's one. Two is the status quo is not always correct. Right now, the status quo of medicine is to have really corporatized clinics and hospital practices where you're cranking out people as fast as possible. Insurance claims are denied left and right. You have to do prior authorizations for everything. You are underpaid, overworked, overcommitted. You just wrung dry. That is a terrible status quo. And we know, especially around here, we don't maintain that. We don't buy into that. No. Another status quo thing that people buy into is that your employer does not want to give you what you want. If it is a healthy employer, if it is someone that you want to work with for a long time and they are looking for actual long-term committed employees to run medicine the right way, that's not true. There's so many status quo things that we have accepted that we need to let go of because they're not always correct. That rolls right into number 3, which is some of the things that we've learned are false. Some of the behaviors we continue to exhibit are trauma responses, and we need to do the work to unlearn it. I think about how medicine has literally taught me to rely on myself. If you listen to last week's episode, I was pretty open about what it is like to count on other people, to have people that support you no matter how high you rise, how much money you make, how you elevate your life, how sometimes that becomes a problem where people don't always support everything that you have going on. And so the impetus is just rely on yourself. You just want to do it all yourself. You don't want to count on other people. I think also in medicine, I remember from the time I became a resident, it was always like, check everything yourself, do everything yourself, because when it comes down to it, someone's going to blame me for something going wrong. Like there's just so much trauma that I experienced that led me to feel like I have a hard time counting on other people or that other people are unreliable. If I want it done, I need to do it myself. All of these notions. These are trauma responses. I am doing the work right now with my therapist to try to unlearn that. It is a rocky road because some people really are unreliable. But there are things that we learned in training, how to ignore our body, how to push through despite the pain or despite our need to pee or despite hunger or thirst or sleepiness. There are things that we have learned. We have learned to self-sacrifice. These are trauma responses. This is what we had to do to get through. But now that you've gotten through, you have to release a lot of that in order to create a different type of career, something that's going to be sustainable and healthy for you. So again, some of the behaviors, some of the things that we're doing are actual trauma responses, and we got to do the work to unlearn it. Next point, one of the things we need to unlearn: altruism pays no bills. Okay, we're using this outdated playbook that if we sacrifice, if we work hard, if we do all the right things, that it's going to put us to a certain place, that our patients are going to have certain outcomes, or the job is going to value us in a way that they have never valued us before, that if we work hard, we'll get noticed, someone will offer us more money, will offer us a promotion. These are lies, okay? Self-sacrifice, altruism requires balance. You can do things altruistically that do not deplete you. And if the case is that you're doing stuff so much that you feel depleted all the time, that's not helpful. Unlearn that. Let's get rid of that. It's about to be 2025. We letting go. Okay? Get you a therapist, get you a coach. Somebody's going to help you point that out, fix those behaviors. We can't be taking that on forever. Okay? Great. Next point is you need to live not just around your work schedule. You're not supposed to be finding pockets of life on your weekends or on your off days. You need to be living. This is the number one thing you hear people regret when they reach their deathbed or their end of days and they know death is pending. They are not happy about all the time they spent at work or prioritizing the wrong things, right? So knowing that you only live life once and that you want to enjoy it and you want to spend it with people who matter to you and all of these things, you need to find out how to live in a way that doesn't just pigeonhole you into these little pockets around a work schedule. Around here, Everybody who's from here, who's been here knows I promote a part-time schedule as much as I can to everybody. I don't even care. I'm like, you need to work part-time because there is just so much life out there to be living that doesn't require you to be there full-time. You need to work part-time. You need to work enough to support what it is you got going on, the lifestyle you're trying to have, the dreams you're trying to accomplish. You don't need to be working under somebody else's dream. Okay? It's not for you. So don't live to work. Just work so that you can live. Okay. Everything else that's not that goal, you want to say no to. So one of our principles is you have to say no and then also say what else you want. So I would say, no, I'm not able to do that. No, I can't commit to that, especially if it's not in alignment with this life that I'm trying to curate. This new identity, this part-time employee, I'm a soft life girly, okay? I'm a lady of leisure. I'm a passenger princess. That's the life I'm trying to live. I'm saying no to everything else. And then I'll say, and this is what I want instead. So even at work, people want to volunteer me for research projects or committees that was in training. Even in my current job, they want to ask you to do a whole bunch of extra things that are not in your job description, that don't necessarily push you forward, don't push the clinic forward, really are just things that they need to hire someone for, right? You're just filling gaps unnecessarily. Say no to all those things. And then say also what it is you want. So how I've gotten a lot of careers that I've gotten, job opportunities I've gotten, is that someone presents something to me and it doesn't match what I'm looking for. I say no. And I say, but if you have a position that has this or pays this, or if you're willing to do X, then call me back. I'm totally open to creating something together. Saying no and is the way forward. Next lesson is you only get what you ask for. The premise to that is you have to ask. You have to ask. No one is giving you anything just for givesies' sake. Most people are not even thinking about you. If you think about how much time you spend just thinking about yourself in your own head, no one is spending time thinking about how to make your life better per se. Sometimes people think of ways to incentivize you doing a particular thing, sure. But generally speaking, if you want to create something, like create a life, create a career, create things, structure, boundaries, no one else is going to know what that looks like for you, what's important for you. So you have to ask, you have to communicate your needs. And once you communicate your needs, then you might actually get it. I find that a lot of my doctor clients that I talk to are so surprised that they are getting the things that they communicated, because for so long we have believed that it's not available to us, that people don't want to give it to us. And so we talk ourselves out of the ask. The ask is the easiest part in the step. I know it sounds crazy, but it actually is. It's the easiest part. It's us dealing with the feelings of, how do I ask? I don't know how to ask. And then us gearing up for the disappointment that they'll say no, so much so that we sit in that disappointment and we allow ourselves to be talked out of asking. And that's why it's a surprise. That's why it's a shock when you actually get the thing. You have to ask. You only get what you ask for. Second part to that is, don't accept the first no. Don't accept a no as it is not possible for you. It may not be possible in that scenario, maybe with that person with whom you're in a relationship with, right? If it's your boss, if it's your coworker, and there's something that you're asking for and they're saying no, maybe it's not possible in that work setting. Maybe it's a sign to change your work settings. Maybe it's a time to go and seek it in other places, if that's something you know you deeply need. Whether it's more vacation time, whether it's a more flexible schedule, anything you think you need, and someone is telling you no, you can't have it with them, consider how valuable, how important it is for you to have that thing and then go out and seek it. So accepting the first no, I know y'all are familiar with this concept. We all made it through med school. There was no's along the way. I'm sure there was a lot of no's along the way. So it's not a concept that we're unfamiliar with, but we forget sometimes to apply it to other scenarios. The next point piggybacks right off of this, where we're talking ourselves out of things or talking ourselves out of the ask, is that you have to get a handle on your brain. And when I say get a handle on your brain, the part of your brain that derives fear and judgment and imposter syndrome, if that is the part of the brain that is talking to all the time, like negative self-talk, intrusive thoughts, mind spiraling, is that the part of the brain that's running your life? You got to get control on that. That is a neurobics thing. Neurobics is the science of learning how to create new neuronal pathways in your brain, because automatically, by default, your brain does the judgy thing. You come up with a good idea and your brain talks you out of it. You come up with something that you deeply desire, and subsequently there's a list that forms in your brain about why you can't have it, why it's not available to you, who's going to be an obstacle, why it's going to be hard, whether or not you deserve it. Who are you to even ask? That part of your brain is a safety mechanism because it feels unsafe to sometimes ask and communicate what you want. But if you don't do that, if you don't communicate, you'll never get the thing. You'll always be in fear. And honestly, it just makes for like a more stressful life and experience. Like life can be much better if you get the things you ask for. So getting a control of your fears, that means anytime you feel like, oh my God, this is scary, I might ruffle a feather, I might offend someone, that you know how to manage yourself so that you don't talk yourself out of getting what you need because of that fear. The last point I want to make, I was talking fast. I made it through this list quick. People often come to me and ask me about confidence, especially as it comes to negotiating or anything, right? Like the ask, the having boundaries and stating your boundaries. People are like, I want to be able to do this confidently. This last lesson is that confidence comes later. You did not become a doctor because you were confident about your practice skills. You became a doctor and then you practiced and you became more confident. It's the same thing with any skill. You have to stick in it long enough to become confident. It's the same way I said you got to manage your brain. You got to manage your fears. You have to do the thing first. You don't become a confident negotiator until you negotiate and you're successful. And then you realize, okay, I'm doing this over and over again. I'm actually getting what I want. Now I feel confident that when I ask, I will receive. That is a side effect. It is an after. It is not something you start with. You do not lead with confidence. You might lead with certainty, like I deserve this thing, or you might lead with curiosity. I wonder if I can get this thing. I'm not sure. But confidence is an after effect. Confidence is something you win in conjunction with getting what you actually asked for and getting what you want and advocating for yourself. So these are the things I know to be true. So my top manifesto items that I say all the time, that I talk about all the time. And I hope that these are things that ring true for you and that you can see how to implement that in your life. That's it. I'm going to keep it real brief. This is a good, nice, brief episode. There's a lot more coming in the next year of this podcast. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I'm excited that you guys continue to tune in both on YouTube and on the podcast platforms. I'm grateful to have you as an audience. Again, as always, I'm open to questions. If you guys have questions and you want me to answer things on the podcast, I'm happy to do so. Enjoy your week. Happy 100. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast. And what I want you to do next is link us everywhere you can. Instagram at The Black Doctor. Just become part of our collective. I want you here. Thanks. Until next time. Bye.